We live in the land of opportunity. This is not China. This is not Russia. We are not communists. This is America, the land of the free. We are free to build businesses, buy homes, achieve wealth, and anyone with a dream has the opportunity to change the world. And today's Memorial Day show is dedicated to the brave fighting men and women that make our freedom and the American dream a reality. My continuing celebration of opportunity and entrepreneurship on this show is my personal effort to prove their sacrifices worthwhile. My career is an expression of that gratitude. I am here with Tom Cisneros, my partner in crime. How you doing this morning, Tom?
I'm already motivated. That was
you know
amazing.
What?
Great
Today
way to
is
kick off the
Memorial
weekend, right?
Day, and it's a Memorial Day weekend,
Right.
and I think we so often take for granted that what we have in America is paid for by men and women fighting for our freedom. And today we have the privilege of having my wife Stacy on the show to join us, and we also have Ashley Haney, my partner in the Haney Garcia Realty Group. How you doing, Ash?
Hi, I'm also your daughter.
Did I say that? I did not say that.
You forgot to mention that
I was
part.
going to bring that up just in case
you know,
anybody
sometimes
forgot.
we get a little bit nervous before the show, and this is a big day. We have Stacy on the show today, which is quite an opportunity. So how you doing today, Stacy?
I'm doing really well. I'm going to admit I'm a little bit nervous to be here, so take it easy on me.
We will, Tom.
I'm not going to.
We'll break you in gently. Now today we're talking about entrepreneurship and the freedom that we have as entrepreneurs, but we're going to focus today on who makes that even a possibility for the rest of us. So, I mean, think back to when you first started, Ash, maybe think back to like 9/11. I mean, that's when a lot of us started thinking a little bit more patriotic. You started thinking, man, what can I do? How do we come together? Where were you on 9/11, Ash?
Actually, it's kind of weird because you go through your life and you do the Pledge of Allegiance at school and everybody looks at the American flag. But that day on 9/11, I was actually only 14 years old. Mom and I, we were driving to high school. We were on the freeway with our carpool and we heard the news and we're like, what does that mean? I mean, it just, even at 14 years old, it was so impactful to me. And ever since then, I just had an added sense of loyalty to our country and sense of pride, especially.
Isn't it interesting, though, when you ask that question of people, they remember. I mean, that was so significant in American history that everybody remembers where they were, who they were with, what they were doing at the time. It's pretty scary.
I was home with Marcus. We were had the TV on, getting ready to go to school. He was getting ready to go to school, and I remember seeing it on TV, and I just couldn't believe it. You guys, Stacey, you guys were driving down the road?
Yes, and as a mother, my first thought was to take the car, turn around, go
Right.
home, and protect my kids to the best of my ability.
I mean, honestly, though, you're driving down the road. You had multiple kids, right? Ashley and probably some of your friends.
Carpool.
Under the circumstances, as a mom, you're thinking about, okay, I got to protect these kids. I got to protect my family. But you also have to explain what's going on. This information is coming out of the radio, and you're, okay, how do I assimilate this and explain this to these children at the time?
Especially when I didn't understand it myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Well,
amazing.
yeah, and then you look around the room. Some of you guys are on Facebook Live. You'll see the flag and some different things that sort of remind us of our patriotic duty and think about people that we know have served. And after 9/11, I know a lot of people started thinking, what can I do to help? What can I do for this country? We kind of all rallied together, and I know eventually my nephew AJ joined the Marines. A lot of people joined up around that time. And later, our son Marcus, who's not here today, he's driving back from the East Coast, but he ended up joining too. And so I don't know, Stacey, when you look around at these pictures and stuff, I don't know, and you got Marcus's glove here, and we're missing Marcus a little bit. And I mean, what goes through your mind when you think about all this stuff?
Well, first of all, my son joining the Marine Corps wasn't part of my life plan for him. I already mentioned my response to 9/11 was to take my kids home and protect them, all of them. And I spent my entire life as a mom probably being a little overprotective. And I wanted him to, to have all of the things in life that, were available to him. So when he told me that he was going to enlist, it was kind of a shock to me. So, it changed our lives.
All military families share a story. It's a story of patriotism, of worry, pride. They're very American stories. After the break, we will share our story. The story is uncommon in some ways, but so, my friends, is America. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. Welcome back. And, every military family shares a unique story. Some stories are common in many ways and uncommon in others. I mean, I think as military families, we all have this pride and this patriotism that's kind of built in. And when our kids are deployed or our loved one is deployed, we worry. And I mean, there's so many things associated with today's military. I mean, there's a high rate of divorce. I mean, the families are universally, they're terrified when their son or daughter is in a war zone. And I think all veterans, they end up coming back from combat changed. They return to their families emotionally a little bit different, or sometimes a lot different, with a changed perspective. But our story, I think, is uncommon in some ways. Only a few percentage of the Americans really serve in the military, right? So you got that 1% to 2% that serve, but only a small percentage they actually go into the infantry, right? And that ends up 1% of 1%. It's not that many. When you think about the population, and you think about our story, is when Marcus joined the military. I think, Ash, you were at were you still at UC Davis at that time?
Yeah, I was still at UC Davis. I was about to graduate, and it was one of those things where my brother comes to me, who's my best friend, and says, "Hey, I'm going to join the Marine Corps." And the first reaction was sense of pride, because I'm super patriotic, and I'm like, wow, go get him, Tiger, Then I started to have a little reality check, and I'm thinking, holy crap, my brother is going to go into the Marines. Then he decided to pick what his MOS was going to be. And like him, he doesn't go into anything half speed. So he decides, I'm going to be an infantry rifleman. And I'm thinking, really, brother?
Yeah.
And if you could clarify what MOS is, I think maybe some people that are listening don't know.
That's their job. That's what occupation they sign up for. So he signed up for infantry. AJ is one of his people he looks up to a lot. It was an infantryman. And so, Stacy, why did Marcus want to do infantry so bad?
To this day, I really don't know. I had that same response.
But he's like, no, I'm not. He had to wait. He waited. He finally got the infantry slot and went in. And some guys are just kind of built that way. I think Marcus is kind of built with the infantry mentality.
He's a gamer. I mean, that guy is full gas all the time. So I'm not surprised by that.
But only 1% of people that go into the military really see action, right? Combat. And I think in our situation, Stacey, you were the HR director for the city of Roseville. You had a great job, very successful. Ashley, you're graduating from UC Davis in 3 years, diving scholarship, all that. My businesses are doing well. I think 5 businesses, a couple $100 million in sales. And our kid decides to join the Marines. I think that puts us kind of in this really unique perspective.
That's another
on
1%er.
Yeah, it's like 1% of 1% of the 1%, and he ends up getting a Purple Heart, right? Ends up getting shot in Afghanistan. It's like very, very unique, uncommon situation to happen. I don't know. So thinking about that to you guys, and I don't know, thinking back to deployment. Remember the day before Marcus deployed? We all went down to 29 Palms. And Todd came down there to visit because he was visiting Todd, my partner in SSI, right, my brother-in-law. He came down because he was visiting Agua Caliente Casino and making a sales call there or selling something. And we all converged in this room, the Ribco, and this restaurant. Stacy, how'd you set up the Ribco? How did that happen?
This is actually really funny. Anybody who's ever been to Joshua Tree or 29 Palms knows that there is not very much there. So I searched online and finally found a restaurant called Ribco and called to reserve the place. And when I finally got a hold of somebody, the woman on the other end of the line said, "Ma'am, you realize you're calling 29 Palms, California, right?" And I said, "Yes." And because not that many people want to rent out an entire restaurant in 29 Palms. So I set it up through the lady that day. And actually, she was dating a Marine, too. So it worked out really well.
So we crowd the whole restaurant for ourselves, all of the Ribco, and...
Let's give some perspective, though. The Ribco is really, really small. I mean, it's like a McDonald's size.
Yeah.
If you go in, it's small. So,
I have a sneaky suspicion that probably they serve ribs there.
They do.
Really good ones,
beer,
too.
and lots of beer.
Which was perfect for that night because you had Marines the night before deployment, right? And these guys were ready to eat raw ribs. They would. Right. I mean, these guys were ready to go. But Ash and Stace, tell us about the relationship that we as a family had with Marcus's brothers in the Marines. I mean, we were very close. That was kind of, we were a place to come, because we lived in California and these guys were stationed at 29 Palms. So we got to know those kids really well.
They became a part of your culture, really.
Absolutely. We had the opportunity to spend time with the Marines while they were in School of Infantry and different times. We tried to take them to activities that would maybe take their mind off of some of the intense training they were going through. So I came to love every single one of those guys.
Well, and also their families, too, because some of those Marines might have been young, but they had wives and some of them had small children. And so we would take them under our wing, and they really became an extension of our family.
Yeah, and I'm gonna set up a tape because I'm gonna share something with you guys that probably most people have never heard before. Most people, another uncommon situation is most people have never been there the night before the Marines actually deploy. And where these guys were deploying was Sangin, Afghanistan, which the most dangerous place in the world at that time. Many people have, there's been a lot of blood spilled in Sangin, Afghanistan, the southern part of Afghanistan. And so that's where these guys were going, and they knew they were going into a war zone. And we had got the Ribco, and we had gathered all of Marcus's closest buddies that we were all so close with, and their wives, and there's a few small children there, and some of the women were pregnant. And it's the night before they deployed, and I got the opportunity to get up and say a few words. And Chris, can you roll that tape?
You guys are going through right now, I mean, most of us can't even imagine, and I'm so proud of what you guys are doing. I'm so proud that my son has friends like you guys. My goodness, we're not friends. And brothers, I'm not gonna cry. You guys are brothers, which kind of makes you guys part of me. And I really, really appreciate this night. I would say, this is as humbling of an experience as I've ever had in my life, knowing that we got guys here that tomorrow, you guys are going to be going off to war, right? You guys are going to, this is the real deal. You guys, it's real bullets, real bombs, real blood. It's a real deal, and it's kind of hard for me as this average Joe to really understand it, but I'm here with you tonight, and I'm getting just a little taste of the quality of the individuals that are doing this thing for us. So I'm humbled, I'm proud, and you know what? I know tonight has got to be one of those nights where you're like, you got your families around you, right? It's obvious to me that as you look around the room, that there's a price that gets paid. The Donnellys are over here, right? You got Joe leaving a beautiful wife, Annie, and a baby. Nate and Heather, right? Marcus is leaving Lauren. There's families. There's a price that gets paid that tonight it kind of all comes to your I guess, the more to your senses. We all know that the prices, and we all know that you guys are going into a dangerous place, and you're risking your lives, that you're going to be getting shot at, that you got buddies that are, you know, are going to, you guys are going to come back a little different. Times are going to be, you guys are going to see some stuff that guys like me can't even comprehend. And you know what? You're doing that all. You think about that, and you're like, okay, well, I'm getting a paycheck, $2,200 a month, man. Yeah. You know what? That's where it's worth $22,000 a month if it's worth $1, and that's the beauty of this thing. You guys aren't doing it for the money. You guys don't do this for the money. You're doing it because you look around and who's going to step up and get the job done, right? You look around, I guess it's me, right? I guess there's something inside me telling me that I'm that guy that, you know, somebody's calling on me to do it. And I'll tell you what, I love you for that, guys. America loves you guys for that. And what you guys are doing is special. It's appreciated by the average Joe out there, just so you know that. It's appreciated. So I just want to say, I guess just do me a favor at this point. Keep your butt and your head low. You guys take care of each other. I know you guys are buddies. Take care of each other. Take care of your former, you know, take care of your brothers and the Marines. And just remember that this is and always has been in God's hands, guys. So just do it like you can. Semper Fi.
Hey, raise them up. You got a crowd in your hand. Everyone that knows the cheer goes like this, never above you. Never below you. Always by your side. Hey, Semper Fi, gentlemen. You're good.
Always by your side. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140, streaming live podcast on YouTube at haneybiz.com. It's Memorial Day weekend, and I always think back to that quote from JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We are back here with Tom Cisneros, Ashley Haney, and Stacey Haney, and we are sharing our story of having our military story of having our son getting ready to deploy to the most dangerous place on earth. And he's had a great dinner the night before, and now it's the next day. It's his birthday. It's March 15th. It's a day that, I sold my surveillance company on a March 15th. It's Marcus's birthday, March 15th, and now he's deploying on March 15th. The mood.
And he was what, 20?
Yeah, he was a kid.
21?
22.
22, yeah. He's still a kid to me. But so talk to us about the mood at the bus as you pull into 29 Palms.
Pulling into 29 Palms or any military base is really, really emotional because you pull up to the base and you're already thinking there's a gate you got to go through and security, and it's like, okay, this is really top secret here. You feel a little bit unnerved because you're already being patted down on some things and your car's being searched, and you look over and there's huge banners of military wives who've left for their husbands that say, 39 days till you get to meet your son, 41 days till I get to meet the love of my life. And it just sets the tone for emotion. And so you pull in and we go to this group where there's hundreds of people just gathered around, and you're thinking, where are we supposed to go? And there's just this line of buses, and you're thinking, are they leaving on these buses? You picture a deployment. I mean, you don't know what to expect. So you pull up and there's 8 buses or something like that, and just hundreds of people gathering, people crying and holding their babies, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what it means to go off to war. And I mean, I'm sure that it's something through decades is probably a similar experience that you pull through. And so for me, going to say goodbye to my brother and send him off to war was hard because that's my best friend, and I'm sitting there and I'm scared, and I have a 1-year-old daughter, and I'm pregnant with my son, and at the time Marcus was expecting his son as well, And I was just thinking to myself, man, he's going to leave, and these men are going to leave these small children or their pregnant wives behind and come back to a whole different world. They're going to have gone through experiences and bring them back that you can't even describe. And they're going to miss experiences with their children that I've taken for granted over this past year with my daughter. And so as these men load onto these buses, you just see their heads peeking out the windows and the little kids getting held up with their hands to like wave goodbye to their dads. Sorry.
And you're his sister, a bond like no other, with the exception of one. His mom. That must have been so surreal for you.
You know, it was interesting. Thanks for setting that up, Ash. And I'm sorry, I'm moved to tears here. I really felt a strong responsibility to stay strong that day. I didn't want my son to see me cry. I felt like, you know what, he is doing the bravest thing that I can imagine my child ever doing. And I decided I wasn't going to break down in front of him. I was going to be that mom, the cheerleader that day. So for me, honestly, it wasn't until later when everything kind of, you know, the wave rolled over me that I was able to let those emotions go. So it was a very impactful day, as you could tell by our voices and the description.
You know, I've had the honor to get to know Marcus over the last year, and he's a truly extraordinary young man. You guys have raised truly extraordinary children, and certainly they're not children anymore. But it's been an absolute honor. Thinking back to how Ashley and Stacy, the way you've described the feeling, and you kind of set the stage as to what that must have looked like. I'm a dad. I have never experienced anything like that, and you know, Mark knows better than most that I'm a big baby when it comes to stuff like that. Those kids mean everything to me. It must have been an extremely somber feeling, and that feeling of apprehension that any parent must have had under those circumstances is downright heartbreaking, while being probably one of the proudest moments of your life.
But I think my mom, going back to what she said about staying strong, these men are leaving for war, so we're trying to be strong because it's almost like you're trying to motivate them, because it's like, you're going off to do a big job. Don't get sensitive on us here. Get out there and go do what you need to do. But the scariest part is not knowing when you're going to talk to them next. And they took them. We didn't know where they were going. Are they flying out of a base nearby? So we're trying to research, and you just don't know when the next time you're going to talk to your loved one is, and that's probably one of the scariest parts too. And
then time goes on. I mean, there's a great song by country artist Tracy Lawrence called "Time Marches On."
Yeah,
if you've never heard that,
I love that one.
It's a great song. You know, as time's ticking away, next thing you know, you guys do some traveling. You find yourself in Washington, D.C. I heard you ran a marathon, a half marathon. Marine marathon. Can you maybe offer us a little insight?
Sure. Yes. I actually, for me, I think people handle stress in different ways, and for me, I felt that it was important to stay active and to stay busy. And I think the best way to take the focus off of yourself, whether you're stressed or depressed or whatever, is to do good and to do things that are positive and active. So I really got involved in running a lot, and decided to take my show on the road. So we went to Fredericksburg, Maryland, and I ran in the Marine Corps Half Marathon back there, which while the boys were deployed, men were deployed. And that was actually a super, super hard half marathon, the hardest one I think I've ever run. They have a heart attack hill right by a hospital, so it's appropriately named. But I ran that with such vigor because I felt like, you know what, I owe it to these guys. They're out there giving the fight of their life. And so I ran in that half marathon and wore a banner on my back of my newly born grandson that said, while my dad is defending your honor, my grandma, or defending your freedom, my grandmother is here running in his honor.
Oh, that's Hunter, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Now regarding that particular trip, because you actually went to various locations throughout the U.S., certainly back east. Also, some other things transpired. You met some really amazing people. I heard that you spent some time with some Vietnam vets. Can you expand on that?
Sure. One of the great things about going to D.C. is that I had an opportunity to connect with a Marine mom friend of mine who I had only known online up to that point. My friend Laura Goodwin, who was here actually visiting me a couple of weeks ago, and her husband joined Mark and I in Washington, D.C. during that time. And we saw some of the touristy sites and took a trip to Arlington Cemetery. That day I was wearing my Marine Corps Half Marathon shirt at the cemetery and came upon a group of older gentlemen who were gathered under a tree near the tomb of the unknown soldier. They saw my shirt, and one of the men commented about the Marine Corps, and so we stopped to chat with them for a moment, and Laura and I expressed to these gentlemen that our sons were deployed, and these men were all Vietnam vets, and big, burly, older men who all started crying, and they hugged all of us, told us how sorry they were and how proud they were. And Mark went up to shake one of the men's hands, and he said, "No, man, we don't do that here. We hug here." And he gave him a big bear hug, and all of us sat under that tree for an extended period of time and just loved on one another.
Part of that 1% we were talking about. These people have experienced things we could only imagine, or more importantly, not want to imagine.
It is my goal to take Marcus back to Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day one day. So that's on my 50 things. That's probably at the top. So
speaking of the 50 things, was being on the radio part of that list that you have, Stacy?
It actually was not a part of my list. I have declined the opportunity to be on this show for a variety of reasons. And then my darling daughter called me yesterday and said, "Hey, Mom, I really think you should join us on the show tomorrow." And how can you say no to your kids?
There's no possible way that it would have been the same without you.
No, her story is something that can be truly, empathized with, and she just has such a different perspective. There's no way we couldn't have you on the show.
So this is number 29.
But just like you, staying at 29 forever.
There you go.
Now, Hunter was born while Marcus was deployed.
Yes.
What was that like?
That was. You want me to share? You want to share that, Stacy?
Go ahead, and I'll chime in.
Well, I think it was. It really gave us something to focus around with Marcus there. We see Hunter. You just think about your kid, and it feels warm inside.
Well, it was great because Marcus deployed March 15th, and then Hunter was born on April 5th. So it was a couple weeks later. So those first few weeks allowed us to have something to look forward to, and we could focus our attention on our new grandson and nephew rather than the fear. And we were just very hopeful. It gave us a lot of hope, and that was what kind of kept us going.
And I felt like I had a piece of my son with me at all times when I was in Hunter's presence.
No question, because that is a mini Marcus, if I have ever seen one. That kid is out of sight.
So I want to take it back just a little bit as we kind of take it into the break. I want to share a little bit of my perspective from that bus ride. And then Marcus and I, while he was in Afghanistan, we didn't get to talk to Marcus a lot. But I did get to talk to him a few times. So I want to share my correspondence with you guys. And I just remember walking him up, everybody's they've loaded the weapons, they put all the stuff on the bus, everybody's getting ready to go. And it's a somber feeling, but there's this one guy that's a little more like he's getting ready to go play a high school football game. He's all pumped up, and he's, and that was my son, Marcus.
Always one of those.
He's the guy that, just got a little bit of extra energy. And, so I walked him up to the bus, and I gave him a hug, and I said, "So how are you feeling?" And he said, "Dad, honestly, I feel like I'm getting ready to go play a high school football game. I feel like I'm getting ready for kickoff." And I just looked into his eyes, and I said, "Marcus, I love you, and I'm proud of you." And I just looked up in the air, and I talked to the man upstairs, and I said, "Let my boy be okay." And I remember... a little bit later, he's getting ready to get on the plane, and I still got his cell phone at that point, and he's getting ready, they take the bus over to the plane, and he's over at March Air Force Base, and I text him, and it's, "How you feeling?" And I said, "You still feel like you ready for kickoff?" And he said, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "Okay, well, just remember this. The Taliban elected to receive." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to tear him up." He was fired up, I don't know. Like I asked you would say, it's like, hey, we might as well get these guys fired up to go over there and do something.
Coach Haney.
I'm not trying to scare them. So anyway, we didn't talk to Marcus a lot, but I remember it was probably a week to 10 days later. Maybe it was, actually I got the date right here. It was April 1st. Went back to my messages and stuff. And Marcus calls. Stacy and I are laying in bed. We have taken a trip to Cabo, family trip to Cabo. Took many trips to Cabo without Marcus being in the Marines, but we're laying in bed. It's 3:15 in the morning, and the phone rings. Marcus has been in in Afghanistan for a couple of weeks, and I said, "How you feeling, Marcus?" When he got on the phone, and we tried to put him on speaker and stuff, and I said, "Is it scary?" And he said it in the most solemn tone. He had changed tone of his voice. Only when they're shooting at me. Only when they're shooting at you.
Good Lord.
So I guess that put things into perspective. I guess you hear bullets fly by, and it sobered us all right up. And the next time I really remember talking to Marcus, I remember after I got off the phone at that time, I said, again, Stacy and I said a little prayer together, and it's like, Lord, let my boy be okay. And next time I heard from him, I was back home. It was toward the beginning of May, and I was out by the pool, and things were heating up a little bit, I think, over there. And fighting season was in the beginning stages, and he calls me, and I'm like, "Oh, hey!" I was so excited to hear him. And I'm like, "How you doing?" "I'm doing great." Yeah. He said, "It's heating up, but I'm a little bit pissed off at you, Dad." And I'm like, "What?" Because we had just sent him over this care package, and it had tobacco and all the things that he needed for. I guess I didn't even know he chewed tobacco, but then one of the things he requested was some tobacco, so we stopped by and got him some tobacco and sent it on over. And I threw a letter in there. He said, "But Dad, I'm a little pissed off at you right now." He was in a great mood, and I was in a great mood to hear him. I was outside in the backyard, and he said, "I'm a little pissed off at you, though. You made me cry." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "That letter you wrote me. It made me cry." And so I got that letter handy here. "To my son and best buddy, Marcus. It may sound a little bit funny, but I've got myself believing that when I talk to God, I'm connecting right to you. Somehow I feel my thoughts can be understood through him to my boy, who is fighting halfway around the world. Don't know if you really hear me, but I talk to you. Sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes it's while I'm driving down the road, sometimes it's when the wind blows, sometimes it's when the rain pours, and sometimes it's when the sun shines, but it's always when I look into your newborn son's eyes that I talk to you. Is it because I miss you? Is it because I love you? Is it because I can't live without you? Is it because we have so many memories and so many dreams ahead? Is it that you are a part of me and I am a part of you? It's probably all that. And maybe because I'm a little crazy too. Yeah, I talk to you. Nobody sees me, but I gaze into the heavens and I think of you, what you might be doing. I picture you lying in bed. I picture you hungry. I picture you with close buddies doing your job. I tell you, I wish I could help. I wish I could understand. I tell you, be safe. And I tell you that I'm so proud. I share my deepest feelings when I talk to you. So God, if you're listening while you're reading this letter, I pray that he shows us a sign. I hope that he says, that he gives us a nod to continue. I hope he confirms that our connection is coming through. And I hope that this feeling inside me is true, that you talk to me too. I love you, buddy.
This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting this Memorial Day weekend from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live podcast and YouTube on HaneyBiz.com.
Have you ever seen the rain? Clint was nice enough to hook us up with some new music that kind of put us in that mood, because when I hear that song, I think of Marcus and his deployment. It must have played 1,000 times while he was gone, and it always takes me back. So thank you, Clint, for doing that. And right in the middle of our backyard is a flagpole, and it's a super tall American flag. And there's a plaque on the base, a big concrete base that plaster concrete put together for me. And the plaque says, "God bless America and those who protect and serve." Dated November 1st, 2010. And I just got it takes me back to that time. And I think as Memorial Day weekend here, we're thinking about how to channel our energy, right? It's not just barbecue time. How do we channel our energy? Stacy, I know you have done so much for the community. We started Allegiant Giving. Yeah, I'm always wearing my Wounded Warrior stuff because the Wounded Warriors were so helpful with Marcus right after he was shot. But how are you channeling your energy today?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, first of all, I want to tell you the date is November 10th.
I know, November 10th. I wrote it wrong.
Because that's the Marine Corps birthday.
that's
so
right,
we
you're right.
dedicated it on
My
Marine
bad.
Corps birthday.
I knew you were going to correct me. I already got it out of my
sorry.
mouth.
You think you'd be used to this already?
Well, I just have to tell you, I talked about doing positive things and staying active during the deployment and so forth. And I tell you, Marcus's service has motivated me to do a lot of things in my life. Right after he was shot, I decided to run in the California International Marathon. And I really, really didn't want to do that. Running is not my forte. I'm not fast. I'm not good at it. But I experienced so many different injuries down at Balboa Naval Hospital. And I kept thinking to myself, there are so many of these injured men who would gladly spend a day or two or however long they could running if they had the ability. And I felt a moral obligation, and I feel that to this day, to live my life to its fullest. Those men have suffered those injuries as a result of fighting for my freedom. And if I don't maximize my life, then I am doing them a disservice.
Yeah. Now, do you find yourself, Ashley or Stacy, when you meet somebody that has somebody, it's a family member of a Marine or anybody who's in the military, that you're kind of bonded to them? And I mean, Ash, you ever run into the people in the military or the families, and you feel like a kinship with them?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm coming from a sister's perspective, not a wife or a mother, but because of the relationship that Marcus and I have, it feels like that. So especially in my real estate career, I seek out people who are veterans to try to help them get home ownership and to get some opportunities, because I know what they've done and I want to help them to live the American dream.
Yeah. The Allegiant Giving thing has been a way that we've been able to really channel some energy, and we buy the Action Track chairs. And I just think back to the guy that Marcus, Tommy Parker, was in the School of Infantry with. He was our first chair victim, and he lost both legs. And, it just gave him that freedom. And, I mean, I think if you can dive into something, we're diving into the Allegiant Giving and we've assembled a group of Allegiant Giving partner businesses and partner individuals to help us to do what we can do to channel that energy. We can't. It was the most humbling feeling in the world to see your son going off to war, thinking you're back with the women and children doing nothing, and it's like we can do something. And I think that's what the Allegiant Giving Partners is all about.
Can I give a plug for the Taste for a Cause that's going to be occurring on October 1st?
Yeah.
Great opportunity to do
Okay.
that.
I'm chairing the committee that's putting together a fantastic fundraiser to be held in Rockland on October 1st, as I mentioned. Information is available on the website at allegiantgiving.org. We would love to have you come out there and help to support us, as we are looking forward to purchasing more Action Track wheelchairs, as well as supporting programs to combat veteran post-traumatic stress and veteran suicide prevention.
It's important to know also that if you can't actually participate in the event Taste for a Cause, it doesn't mean you can't go to the website and do a little perusing through there, find a little more about this particular association of people that are doing what they can to give back, and join that way.
And there's a portal to donate on that site as well, I might add.
And I thank you. You put you in sales.
I know. I thought you were scared to come on this show.
You were a director for a local city of Roseville. You're saying it seems like you got to be selling something. But I got to take this opportunity to invite people in general. If you can't make it to the Taste for the Cause, just come to the Allegiant Giving Center. I mean, I think you got a sense as to who our family is today and what we're about and what our beliefs are. And if you're one of those people that kind of thinks like us, maybe you have a child that's overseas and you're scared, or you just need someone to talk to. I mean, I think we're that group of people, and I would invite anybody who is worried about their kids, worried about their brother, worried about somebody they care about that might be over there.
Or maybe just want to get involved and want to figure out a way that they can help impact the community.
No
you want to be something. We want to be around you. If you think like us, come on in. The water's warm. And I want to say a special thanks to the sponsors of this show as well, because this show is really all about trying to do something different and really about spreading a belief system about the way America should think. And I know everybody doesn't think like us, but for the ones that do, we appreciate you. And I want to thank 5 Star Bank, Owen Dunn Insurance, Kim Silvers, HR, Greenberg, Trorig, the law firm, Limitless, Stiefel, and we have a number of others. And all the Allegiant Giving partners are friends that have rallied around our cause. It's not my cause. It's not Stacy's cause. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people's cause.
It's
and
our cause.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the power of with. And one of our friends, Knee Deep Brewery, is having a big event. Andrew Moore has been so generous with Knee Deep and helping at our different events and providing great craft beer. And he's having a big event at his place. So it's his anniversary party is from 3 to 8 on June 11th. It's a 6th anniversary party. I wanted to mention that. Thank you, Andrew, for everything that you do. I saw on this thing, it's nobody, you got to be at least 21, and there's no animals allowed. And I don't know what that's about.
Guess I don't get to go.
I don't know if any of Marcus and his buddies are going to be able to go because this could limit it down a little bit, Andrew. I'm sorry about that. But next week on the show, we are going to meet Seamus McClure, founder of Milkman Toner Company, and Micah Sparks. He's a writer and filmmaker. You're not going to want to miss next week. We will be back in just a minute with some closing thoughts, and a special guest will be calling in and helping us wrap up the show and sharing a little bit of his journey as he travels across the country at this point. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. Got a special shout out to my good friend, Mr. Greg Van Duzen. Got married a couple days back, and a touching ceremony made me laugh, made me cry, and his wife Fifi. I know they just got back from the honeymoon, so congratulations to Greg and Fifi. And very proud. Greg is a Vietnam veteran. He's in the next room, and he's done so much to teach me in this last year or so. So thank you, Greg.
And a very intricate part of Entrepreneurs Unlimited.
Without a doubt. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. Marcus Haney, are you on the line? Do we have you, Marcus? Testing?
Oh, hey.
I think we got you, Marcus. Okay, so we have Marcus Haney on the line. You're driving back from, we only have a couple minutes left. You're driving back from East Coast with your woman? Is that what's going on?
Yes, headed back from New York. Currently just got done visiting the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish.
Oh, great. Ash, are you on the line? You having a good time? She's not on the line. Hi, Ash.
Hi, Ashley.
2 Ashleys in the family now.
I know, this is weird.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left, and I'm trying to think of which story to tell. I mean, the story of you getting shot in the leg through your tobacco chew, and the tobacco chew actually changing the trajectory of the bullet. Tell us that story real quick.
Well, first off, thanks so much for bringing out the letter and making me cry.
I know. You should see us here.
You weren't alone. We all were crying in the studio.
You got so many stories.
Yeah, so I was on a mission in Sangin Valley, Afghanistan, and we rolled up to be a quick reaction force for a downed vehicle, and there was a lull in the fight, so we moved towards our guys who were trapped, and I got shot by a 7.62 round through my right thigh, about 2.5 inches above my knee. I had a can of Grizzly Wintergreen. They had just
Shout out to Grizzly.
The aluminum top, and had that in my cargo pocket, and somehow the bullet went through the can of chewing tobacco into my leg and back outside of my hamstring. Really changed the trajectory of the bullet.
So the tobacco saved your life, because if it would have been just like a millimeter to a different area, it might have you might have bled out, right?
Yeah, main artery.
Yeah, it could have hit artery.
Yes, I got very, very lucky.
I hate to say that tobacco saved your life, but because that would be bad press.
This
for
would
myself.
be the one and only case. Other than
Yeah.
that, tobacco is bad.
We only have a minute left, Marcus, and I know that you feel like sometimes you're so humble about your heroism and stuff, but because you have friends that got it a lot worse than you did, and I know that you like to defer or kind of put some of the attention over to those people.
Yes, I had quite a few friends get injured and or killed in Afghanistan, and those are the guys who I really feel paid the ultimate sacrifice. And during this Memorial Day weekend, it really makes me think about those gentlemen and the heroes that I had the opportunity to serve next to, and know that we all gave it our all for one another, and I feel proud to be able to say that.
Yeah, and I know your good buddy Chris Bogner, he was blown up, and then he came back to the exact same spot you were as you were rehabbing, and you and he were already close, but you became so much more close.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, he lives in Bozeman, Montana. Him and I became very close after we both got injured, and had each other to lean on when there's so many people that the military don't have anybody to lean on and have a support system, and that's why Allegiant is doing so great at stuff with the suicide awareness and the PTSD awareness stuff. So I think there needs to be more of that, and people need to really.
I hate to cut you off, Marcus, but you guys protecting the American dream, and it just makes me want a shout out to entrepreneurs is. With these guys making the sacrifices that they make, isn't it our obligation to live the American dream? And not just live it a little, live it a lot. Live the American dream. Reach deep down inside and find that extra something that we have that these guys have demonstrated that they have. And let's do this, guys. Entrepreneurs, never above you, never below you.
Always
by your side.